Good day, everyone, and welcome to AI-powered MSP growth. We're going to have a great conversation today talking about tokenomics and how, as partners of Flexera, you can take a solution and services to market to support what is the buzzword and the conversation that I am having repeatedly with customers and prospects and partners alike here at Flexera. So I'm your presenter today. I'm very excited to be here. I'm Jeremy Chaplin. I lead our solutions architecture and advisory function for FinOps. I've been at Flexera for 5 years leading the team and have industry experience across a range of vendors, but also in the partner space. So been in your shoes and know the challenges in taking these services to market. Now, what we're going to look at today is a range of topics. I'm going to introduce for you the Flexera platform and how that can power, as either existing or as a new partner, a growth for you in taking services into the market. Specifically, of course, today around FinOps and, of course, AI cost management and tokenomics. But we'll also see that the platform is very broad in covering other areas in terms of IT asset management and SaaS management as well. And those are ultimately important parts of the AI story. We'll understand a little bit about the AI crisis as well once we've seen the platform, and we'll then talk about tokenomics and how we might take a service to market in order to help our customers address this kind of visibility gap that we have with AI spend, nobody being able to kind of track it or understand the value that it is bringing to their business. And then with a little bit of time, we'll have a look at the platform just to show you a couple of areas where we can provide value for you, providing services to your customers with our platform, which covers a broad range of capabilities, as we'll see, and then some Q&A from you as well. So hopefully that works for you. Let's dig in and have a look at the platform and how that can power growth. So, as I said in the introduction here, if we take a look at the Flexera One platform, it's a portfolio of capabilities that span all of the scopes of technology spend within your organization. And for any of you tracking the FinOps Foundation, you'll have seen, of course, that their mission statement has been changed from cloud to technology. That's really important because we're recognizing this is not just a public cloud problem anymore, but wherever your technology investments are, this is where your customers are looking for help. And particularly, of course, when we think of AI, the spend exists in all sorts of domains, not just in public cloud. So the breadth of the platform here, from all the way on the left-hand side, our IT visibility, IT asset management solutions, the things that we own on premises, desktops, servers, switches, but also expanding into licensing and the agreements and commitments and entitlements that you have that are super complex. And then as we head towards the right side, well, now we're getting into software as a service. How do we manage that on a per seat, per user basis? But that's being made massively complex by AI. No longer do you just procure, a number of Microsoft 365 licenses. It will come with, an option to buy tokens for, workflow solutions, AI-based solutions, as will pretty much any AI service that you're buying as SaaS. And then, of course, as we head to the right, well, this is purely the FinOps play. How do we manage commitments? How do we manage cloud and an aggregate of cost? And then looking at things like workload optimization, getting into the depths of ultimately, how do we save you more money so that you can make those investments, in other parts of the solution. If we double click here, we've got the FinOps portfolio. So here you can see a smaller segment of, the capabilities here, and you can see other detail like our sustainability, solution, which is part of cloud cost optimization. But what I want to draw to your attention here really is the managed service layer. Okay, this is enabling you as a partner of ours to deploy these services very easy to customers. And we'll take a look at that as we go through, hopefully, into the demo, because you want to make it easy to test and try out these capabilities, to be able to deploy with a single click, to avoid having to go through complex onboarding or credentialing for these things where you already have access to that data. And so if we drill in a little bit further, what we're talking about here is ability really for your customers to see everything and ultimately control everything. And that would be from the ecosystem at the bottom layer here, where they have spend from a variety of different logos, of course, that we'll all recognize here, but then doing discovery, right? Understanding what's SaaS, what's software, what's cloud and containers and data center, and now looking at all of the apps and agents and the tokens and models and data platforms that your customers are consuming. And there we bring the magic sauce at the knowledge layer, right? Being able to normalize, categorize, and enrich that data so that you can understand the value that that spend on that diverse range of technology brings, and ultimately then making some inference, right, at the insights layer, using things like natural language queries to drill in and analyze that data, and ultimately then also taking action on those things. And we have a broad range of the portfolio that is autonomous, that will take actions, that will deliver immediate ROI to your customers. And so here's a simplified view, right? To get that inventory, get that data, enrich it, normalize it, then take AI into use here for AI for FinOps ultimately to get some insight into the data, and then use AI also to take action on that, driving value for your customers. Now, if I drill in one level further, this is what we're kind of looking at in terms of capabilities. Visibility, of course, right? If we think of the FinOps framework and how we tackle this problem most generally for, any problem, it's to get visibility, the inform stages here. And we do that, as I said, across all of the areas of technology spend, software licensing will give you sustainability insight. You can do budget forecast and allocation of cost. But ultimately, what customers are looking for is that optimization. How can I drive out savings? Well, using things like our discount management solution or our spot instance solution for Kubernetes, or using right sizing and bin packing, technical terms for effectively making the most of the infrastructure that you're buying, and of course, auto scaling and then data cloud optimization as well. But the point here really is you start to add these solutions on for your customers. Not only does the breadth of visibility and the breadth of insight increase for them, but the savings that they're making are stacking up as well. And ultimately, your customers getting to a point where maybe they're paying 80% less than the public cloud rate. And that, of course, is great for their competitiveness, improving margins and ultimately driving theirs, and of course, your growth. So if you're not a partner already and you're not kind of, in the loop with our partner program, it's a three-tiered structure here that ultimately rewards, your investment and commercial success as you move up through the member select and strategic, tiers here. Now, if you need more information, you can obviously read the content on the slide. I'm not going to spend too long here, but do contact the partner desk at flexera.com. They can provide you all of the detail that you need. But as you can see, extensive range of benefits and support from us in terms of going to market and ultimately growing your business and your customer base. All right, so let's dig in on what is, the topic du jour at the moment, the AI cost crisis. We'll just explain a little bit about the challenge in the market, but also give you some positioning as how Flexera can uniquely help. And ultimately, if you haven't kind of grasped already, you've seen the breadth of visibility that we have. And really, that's part of the solution for customers. That AI spend is sitting everywhere. And therefore, having that broad view is really fundamental to solving the problem. Now, we've all seen the news, of course, and, a lot of talk about AI and impact on jobs, and, lots of big organizations letting people go and saying AI is going to solve that problem for us. We don't need the headcount. We're going to invest in the technology. But that quickly shifted, I think, and days, if not weeks, maybe for my LinkedIn feeds to kind of blow up as well as yours, I'm sure. But actually, it shifted to really this is a cost problem that we have here. Maybe we've let some folks go, but do we know actually the cost of replacing them? Even if we can replace them, are the outcomes the same at the end of the day? And so controlling costs, running AI at production scale has ultimately resulted in the AI cost crisis. And this is real. I just come back from FinOps X in San Diego at the start of June. And quite honestly, every conversation that I've had with partners and customers is digging into the challenges that they have with AI. Customers saying, hey, we've got, a token limit for GitHub Copilot. We're only a third of the way through the month and we've blown through that budget. We've got engineers sat there now. Hopefully, they still remember how to code with AI support. But those productivity gains that we expected to see, disappear once they kind of the quota is used up for the tokens for the services that you're using, and you're kind of being held to ransom for renewing of that, right? Or you're saying to your teams you can't use those services anymore. So we've lost visibility, right? It's almost like we've gone back to the cloud days or the data center days when we were doing virtualization or Kubernetes, and suddenly you've got this opaque view of spend and how it relates to driving value and underpinning applications and other business context that you need to make informed decisions. Now, I'm hearing that, I'm sure you're hearing that, but you're not alone in terms of very big organizations, the Ubers, the Microsofts of the world, and, spending 500 million on Claude in a month, right? Crazy kind of stories in the market. But these are real problems, and it might not be the same order of magnitude for you and your customers. But I'm sure that you're hearing the same stories. We need to get this in check. And it's an interesting challenge as well, because actually AI is not necessarily getting cheaper. It's supply constrained, and it's the first time, certainly in my life, working in IT, that we, have to reset our expectations that these things get cheaper over time. For sure, the cost of a token has fallen, but when you compare that to how token consumption has increased exponentially, it's not getting cheaper. And ultimately, we can't expect that token cost to continue to decline when there are supply constraints of both, silicon and the raw materials and electricity and water and other things. So, a bit of a kind of mind shift for me was also to think about this problem of value and about optimization of tokens in the production, in the consumption, side of things. How do I turn the raw materials, that power my data center into tokens that I can consume, and do that in the most efficient way so that I get more tokens, for the money I'm investing. And really, this is an important part of the sustainability aspect that we've talked about, and what's going on in your data center and licensing and hardware and everything else, right? Am I using the right GPUs? Am I being efficient, even at the production and infrastructure level, let alone at the software levels with models and different options to drive value? So, every decision, every AI decision and action has a price tag. It's about this opacity. We write a query into whatever kind of AI model that you might be using, but do you know what it's going to cost? Do you know at the end of the day what the price will be? No, there's completely no information telling you what it might be. And that query might go off, it might trigger other models, might trigger other agents and things to take action. It's reasoning it's with itself, it's double checking, because you've asked it to validate the responses and other things. And so, just to complete one task, you could have millions, if not tens of millions of tokens being consumed. And so the problem that we're facing, and the problem that we really want to help you as partners solve here, is what we're referring to as the AI economy, or of course, as you've heard from J.R. Storm and others at the FinOps Foundation, and now the Tokenomics Foundation, AI tokenomics. And we've kind of moved now away from the training and the challenges there. That hasn't gone away, because the data layer is still important. And I'll touch on things like Databricks and Snowflake, as we go through the demo. But we're into the kind of inferencing side of things, where the compute is driving substantial usage, burning through tokens in real time. And again, we've lost that view. We need to get visibility here, of course, to start to be able to budget, start being able to forecast what my consumption is, but really more important, to take this new unit of measure, the token, if you will, and be able to attribute value to that, right? Investment decisions that your customers are making have to be driven by understanding the value that that investment is making, because if it's not driving value and not, resulting in growth for an organization, then you stop that investment, or you change that investment and make different decisions. So we'd love for you to, leveraging the Flexera platform, go to market with a, tokenomics as a service, if you want to, call it that, but you get the idea, right? How do we deliver managed services to our customers, to help them with this new problem? And again, I'd love to hear from you, but I'm sure they're knocking on your door in the same way that they are ours, saying, help us solve this problem. And it's, as I said, it's a visibility problem, but it's a new visibility problem, not only just in the order of magnitude that we have here, right? Gartner with their prediction, and it was changing month by month. So it very quickly went from 2 to 2.5 trillion, and I hate to think what the projection is at this point, halfway through the year, but $2.5 trillion on AI spend. Lots of organizations reporting that actually their spend on technology surpasses the spend on human capital, right? Which is quite an inflection point for us to be in, and really highlights the importance. But before we can do all these things at the side here that we're used to doing for cloud spend, and we're still learning how to do it efficiently, to be candid, we have to have the visibility, right? We can't do those things without the context and the understanding of what we're spending. And as we've said, any organization, using AI right now, it's not just a public cloud problem. It exists in all of the SaaS applications. We've got hugely complex new license and consumption-based models, for charging you. And ultimately, it's a problem that exists in the data center, in the data cloud as well, because of that, supply constraint and the consumption that you might be running within data centers, and of course, the underlying data that powers the training and efficiency of the models we're running. Now, I can tell you this, of course, but we also hear it, of course, from practitioners. This is the FinOps Foundation and their own survey, State of FinOps, for this year. You can see their strapline now, where cloud has been replaced for technology, as I was alluding to earlier. But importantly, 98% of FinOps practitioners, people on the ground, not vendors, not analysts, but people doing this, are being tasked with managing AI spend, an increase over the year of 35%, 90% looking at SaaS, 64 licensing, and then, around the 50s mark for private cloud and data center. This is telling us that people are being tasked with solving this problem, but it's pretty, obvious to me, given the conversations we've been having, that we don't have the tooling necessary to support that. And of course, this is where Flexera comes to help. What we're trying to do, and what we've been doing, of course, with unit economics in cloud, and more broadly across other technology domains or scopes, if you want to use the FinOps Foundation terminology, is to get a total cost of ownership. Because if I'm powering, my AI, whatever it is, chatbot or web checkout or whatever it might be, and I'm using cloud resources, I might also have SaaS applications or data clouds powering that, Kubernetes clusters, licensing on premise. If we don't look at the total cost, we can't, by reasoning, get to a point where we can understand the value. And so not only is Flexera giving you this entire visibility of the technology stack, but we recognize there's more. Okay, so we're looking, of course, at the data platforms, the Snowflake Databricks, as I alluded to earlier. We have the insight for your infrastructure and cloud compute. We have intelligence about what you're consuming on premise, and we're building in visibility of those AI agents, the platforms, the models, and the tokenomics, and ultimately the AI applications that maybe you're consuming directly from those vendors, right? Not everything, of course, is being consumed from the cloud bill. And more importantly, we don't always get all of the information that we would need in order to attribute value, to the spend that we're ingesting. And so what we want to do is, of course, get to this view of understanding the economics of the AI you're consuming. Who is consuming it? And as we can see, from the screenshots here, not always a person, could be a service account. Really important, again, to understand, the change in licensing now, where an agent itself or AI itself can be deemed as a licensable user and a consumer of tokens. And again, a level of opacity that we need to solve. Giving some sort of business context, but also understanding what they're using is really important. We know different models can be many orders of magnitude more expensive, depending on the outcome. And so understanding what's being used, what the relative cost is, and I say relative because again, the licensing models are going to be very different across these services, ultimately is what we need to be able to do to understand the value that they bring. And this, of course, will be taken further in terms of model optimization and other things, but ultimately we can't optimize what we can't see. And so we want to get a view of trends, right? What are we using? Again, which tools, where do they sit? Maybe it's within the SaaS space, maybe it's within the public cloud space, maybe it's direct to those vendors. What are we spending over time? What is our forecast? What is the trend of consumption here? And ultimately, we're taking that further using our ML engine already that we have that predicts cloud spend to give you that prediction and spend forecast. Really, really important because, again, we're seeing those customers burning through tokens at such a rate, not sustainable. They don't know that they're going to kind of run out, halfway through the month or whatever it might be that these organizations are doing. So real problem here that we need to solve. And then, ultimately alerting on that, right? Cost spikes, things running out of control, retries and other things that we've talked about here, ultimately resulting in unwanted spend, but also spend that you don't know about, right? And so we're kind of back again to the challenge that we're trying to solve, in the public cloud space in the early days about anomaly detection and just getting some sort of prediction of spend. All right, so that's it from a slide point of view, although we'll circle back and we'll have a little bit of time on some Q&A here. I'm just going to drop out of the PowerPoint deck and we'll take a look at the platform, have a look at that so that we can show you a little bit about what I'm talking about here in terms of the platform capabilities. And what we're going to start with is understanding actually how the Flexera platform can help you deliver the kind of capabilities that I've talked about to your customers. Super easy for you to come into Flexera One. Here we've got some white labeling so you can brand these things in line with whatever you need as a partner or your customers need. But it's really easy to then come in and provision an organization, provision a tenant would be the word that we would use for your customer to try or to have access to whatever capabilities that you've licensed. So I can go in and add a new customer, we'll add a new entry. Of course, you would give it a name and a description. But here is where you can then say, we're going to give them cloud cost optimization, and actually they're interested in the commitment management side of things and the sustainability module, really important here. And so it's super easy to come in and manage your customers, provision a new organization, and that gets created in near real time, right? That will be available in a few minutes for you, and get them access to the capabilities that they need in order for you to deliver the services that ultimately drive value for those customers. And we can see here a great example, right? So we've got a customer created. We can see, creation date. We can see that we have delegated access. Our support teams can log in and get access to these customers. But importantly, we can then see the capabilities. And remember that architecture slide, the capabilities that we've exposed to them. And of course, then importantly, any expiration dates, right? So provisioning a customer, getting them access to the platform, super easy. And of course, from a support point of view, you need to log in and access as that customer, you can do it. Now, if you're a cloud service provider, a reseller of cloud, you're also going to want to delegate cloud spend from your own reseller structure through to that customer. And here we can see on a dashboard a really easy way to see that spend. But as well as delegating the spend down to the customer, again, if you're in the kind of cloud resale business, many customers are, you want to be able to manipulate that spend. And there are lots of options here in terms of how we would do that. Let's just add a new rule here as an example. Find the right one, add a rule. So we can do anything with the spend, right? From the top level where we ingest it for you as a cloud reseller, manipulating RIs and savings plans to ensure that the customer is seeing that in a way that they want, and not necessarily how the cloud providers, spread those discount mechanisms across bills. you can start to re-rate the services. So if you're providing your own support tiers, well, let's take Amazon's AWS support, put our own tiers, right, where we get discounts based on spend, and ultimately rewriting pricing for other things, not just support, including, volume discounts that they provide. But you can also do this with credits, adding in custom credits, manipulating credits that come into the bill, deciding whether customers can see them or not, and deciding whether tax is exposed, or adding your own charges into the platform. So very, very easy again to kind of, manipulate the data so that ultimately you can manage margins. And we have then a tool, Billing Explorer, that ultimately lets you do that, right? Can I see the spend that is delegated down to my customers, and understand the margins that we are making there on those customers, right? And so digging into that, seeing the customer list, bringing in metrics like the effective cost, the list prices, margins that you're making. So simple reporting to say, hey, yes, we've got these customers, we've added these billing plans and structures to them. These are the ones that are most effective for us. And of course, we can move customers around, within that structure as well. So super, super powerful. You can also do things with billing history. So as you ingest bills, of course, those bills change over time. You might not want to, expose those changes to customers, or you might do. Right. Again, right. Credits might drop in, but you've invoiced your customer. Well, you don't want to reprocess that bill for that customer unless you've made changes to billing rules, right? So you could just reprocess it, or you could unlock it and re-ingest it for yourself so that you can see the new bills. So lots of opportunity then, again, to manage customers, manage the margins for those of you that might be resellers, but ultimately it's about the simplicity of giving your customers access to the broad set of capabilities that exist within Flexera here. So what I'm going to do now is just switch gears a little bit, and we'll have a quick look at our demo here for the end customer. And we'll talk a little bit about, of course, the AI spend management side of things that we've talked about in the second part of the webinar here. So here as an end user, I'm seeing, the spend that has been ingested into the platform. I have all of the kind of capabilities that I'm familiar with as a FinOps persona. But of course, I can go in and I can start to dashboard and report on things. And of course, AI spend is part of that. Now, here we've got a view of AI and ML spend for this particular customer. It's bringing out all of the services that the customer is consuming from their public cloud bill, right? And so pulling that data in, I can see that. I can start to, of course, attribute it to different business, services and things if I need to. I can do anomaly detection, I can do budget and forecast and other things. And if we have time, we can have a look at that. But as we said, the problem doesn't just start, with the kind of AI and ML that I'm ingesting from the cloud bill. It starts at the data layer. And so services like Databricks and Snowflake are becoming immensely popular with customers, but every customer I speak to, and, Flexera themselves, no exception in terms of being customers of these vendors, has a cost problem. It's a new cloud. It's a new level, of spend that I need to embrace and ingest and allocate accordingly, and ultimately be able to optimize, right? How do I drive value out of it? Again, of course, it starts at the visibility layer. What am I spending? What services are we consuming here? From the cloud vendors. Do I have other Databricks spend in the cloud bill? Do we use Databricks AI services? Can we see, the workspaces and bring in business context to that spend? What services and SKUs am I using from Databricks? And then, of course, the compute types and other things, which are really, really important for optimization. And of course, optimization is going to be front of mind, right? Engaging your customers engaging with you are going to be asking, well, so what? Of course, visibility really helps me, but can I do things to drive out cost? And Flexera has a massively powerful set of optimization capabilities. We saw, of course, commitment management, which is powered by ProsperOps, and that gives you automated commitment management capabilities, resulting in up to 70% savings and a super industry leading effective savings rate. those kind of things that you can deliver to your customers are really exciting because the return on investment is predictable. And so we can tell customers what they would save in a very short period of time, but also the ROI, the return, start immediately. As soon as you deploy that service, you start saving money. And so that means that you can deploy those things as, a lead in, a land and expand opportunity where the returns then are invested in other parts of the platform. So that's on the kind of rate reduction side, but on the usage reduction, of course, recommendations for Databricks, as well as all of the services that you're seeing, PaaS and IaaS services that we see customers consuming in the public cloud space. Drill into that as an example. Let's have a look at what's happening for Databricks, right? So a lot of right sizing of compute here, okay, giving you ideas here about what we could downsize, and ultimately switch nodes to different instance types to be more efficient with that spend. Right sizing of clusters, and the worker nodes that are running under those clusters if they're not being used effectively, and ultimately doing that for all-purpose job clusters and other things, both for the worker nodes and the controller nodes as well. As we look ahead into the second half of the year, we'll be delivering similar recommendations, of course, for Snowflake consumers, and then looking at other areas where data cloud consumption, the BigQueries and others of the world, we can provide similar capabilities. But again, where we're going to, similar to the ProsperOps kind of, capability, delivering automatic outcomes. And if you look at our, solution for Kubernetes, our Ocean platform, again, it does exactly the same. It takes action for the customer, delivering autonomous optimization, and therefore the savings are banked immediately and, of course, reinvestable. And so using the platform, using the breadth of the capabilities of the portfolio, helping your customers solve that problem. Let's have another look at some of the AI metrics again, for those customers digging into their cloud bills, seeing the different types of AI service that they're consuming here, digging into the kind of workload type or looking at the usage units here. I've filtered it just to see how many tokens we're consuming of various services over time. And again, if you think about the capabilities that your customers are asking, for budget, for forecast, for anomaly detection, well, I can do all of that again against the data that we're ingesting and surfacing around AI consumption, as well as bringing in spend from other areas, whether it's your SaaS spend, maybe it's the AI spend, maybe it's the cloud spend, or even costs from the data center. So being able to get alerts and things where that spend goes out of control, but also applying the business context and ultimately, getting to the nirvana, the tokenomics, understanding the value that those AI investments are, making to your particular business here. So lots of capabilities here. There's one more thing that I'm going to show you, and I talked, of course, about ingesting a more broader set of capabilities. This is a mock-up. This is not product yet. Will be delivered at the end of this month for our customers in early access here. But directionally, this is where we will be going for managing AI, getting a sense of my spend. Where is that spend sitting? Is it SaaS? Is it the foundational models? Is it PaaS that's running within the cloud space, so that you can get a view of that, right? Being able to see the spend over the period of time, tracking it, understanding renewals that might exist in the SaaS space, and ultimately being able to attribute that consumption, understanding the trends and patterns, to different parts of your business, right? The business context, super important here. So, can we do chargeback of AI? The answer is probably not for many customers here. Can we get some sort of view of what teams are doing, what cost centers are consuming, and ultimately the individuals, and as we said, the service accounts where AI is effectively consuming tokens itself. All super important outcomes that we need to get to, and ultimately then alerts, forecasting, projection of that spend, being notified when things go wrong and are outside of your kind of budget threshold. Really important to do that, but also making sure you've got good coverage of AI as it is consumed within your organization. So little sneak peek there of the capabilities that we have there. What I'm going to do now is just toggle back here and we'll just have a quick Q&A. Hopefully that was really useful for you. Certainly, enjoyed the conversation here. We've had a few questions now from the audience, so I'm going to just take those as we go. But again, if you have any further questions about Flexera, about the platform program, or anything that we've shared here today, again, please do reach out, partnerdesk@flexera.com here to learn more about the partner program, to learn more about the solutions that we've shared here with you today. So question one I've got here, what AI services do you support now and plan to support in the future? What a great question, because there are many, many of them, right? We have, I think, on our list 150 different services, on top of the things that we already support in the SaaS and cloud domains. Not all of those are mature, right? We're definitely on a journey here, and nobody's completely solved the problem. And many of these, native connections and to the providers, the foundational models and things, maybe they don't have the APIs. Maybe they're not exposing the, attribution data and metadata that lets us know who or what part of the business is consuming the tokens, right? So yes, we've got a lot of 150. We're working through those rapidly. Many, of course, we need the vendor to start making changes and start adopting things. And of course, the Tokenomics Foundation, the FinOps Foundation are working on standards there. The focus format, will be extended to support all things tokenomics. And again, hoping that we can drive adoption from the vendors, because again, solving that problem and normalizing some of these data sources is part of the problem here. So good list. Of course, keen to hear from you about any particular services that you want supporting, but based on the conversations we've had with existing customers and partners, we think we've got a pretty good understanding of where the demand sits. But again, love to hear from you. All right, we have another question. Providing visibility is a first step, but we're already being asked, how do I save the money on AI? Do you have plans to help customers ultimately optimize prompts and models and things? And of course, the answer is yes, right? As we've said, visibility is really key here. We have to solve that problem first before we can start to optimize. And there are some challenges in the optimization, right? You start to think about prompt optimization. Well, that requires us to be able to read the prompts and make some inference about whether they're efficiently written and so on. So that's quite intrusive. Some customers, they may not want that level of intrusion and you kind of reading the specifics of what the customer is typing. So there's a PII element, and a kind of sovereignty element, I'm sure, in those conversations. But we will do what we can, and of course you will have options, I guess, based on the data that you allow us to gather in terms of how we can optimize those things for prompts and models and model routers and other things that we can do to drive out cost. But remember, as I said at the start, it also starts at the point of production. So where you are running your own infrastructure and using GPU in the data center, you can think about that layer as a first step to driving value and optimization. Third question here, can we access the data to produce our own views or applications? Do you support MCP server or API, for example? And yes, MCP server as well as our own natural language Flexera assistant are available. And will expose any of the data that Flexera has. Again, MCP server across the platform, I think, is in early access, coming GA later in the year here. So that absolutely supports customers accessing the data that we've gathered, but maybe using their own models. The testing that I've seen from that has been super, super effective, just to sit Claude across that MCP server and ask questions like about workload placement and where might I host an application based on sustainability and cost and latency, and those kind of big data problems where all of that data that Flexera stores is important in terms of reaching the right decisions. So yeah, coming soon capabilities there. Do you have plans for enriching AI data with sustainability? Well, absolutely. Again, reach out to us if you'd like to see, but we do have an AI sustainability dashboard, again, being released. If it hasn't already, I think it's coming this quarter, which will give you that insight, right? Carbon emission against the AI that you're consuming. And, nobody can't have seen the news as it relates to the kind of sustainability impact that the massive amounts of compute that AI needs, is driving. So a particular concern here, and of course something that we can do given the context that we have. I've got time for one more, I think, here. So who do we speak to? How do we get in touch for next steps? Okay. If I hadn't already articulated it, please do reach out, partnerdesk@flexera.com, and we'll be able to support you, whether it's about the partner program or anything else you've seen here today. All right. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day. And a big thank you from me.